Welcome to my bike journey on the Great Allegheny Passage and the C&O Trail. Follow along with me as I make my way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Washington, D.C. Today, on day 4, we travel from Myersdale to Cumberland, Maryland. We'll ride about 35 miles and cross the Continental Divide and begin an 1,800-foot descent to our destination. I'll cover the day's journey as well as some interesting points along the way, including the 3,300-foot-long Big Savage Tunnel. So good morning. This is now day 4, leaving Myersdale, Pennsylvania, and the Levi Deal Mansion. It was a beautiful stay, just an absolutely beautiful room. Slept really well. Skipped breakfast because if you could see the clouds, we're expecting lots of rain today, so I don't think there's a chance I'm going to get by without it raining today, but we'll give it a shot. Right out of Myersdale is this nice little hill I'm climbing to get back to the trail. Okay, just leaving Myersdale this morning on my way to Cumberland. It's a pretty big day. It is a fairly short mileage, about 30 miles. We'll climb for 8 or so up to the Continental Divide, which is a pretty major milestone on the trail. And on the other side of that, there's about a 20-mile downhill, which I'm really looking forward to, into Cumberland, Maryland. So out pretty early again today. Besides the Continental Divide, we've got 3 tunnels, and one being the Big Savage Tunnel, which is the longest tunnel on the Great Allegheny Passage. About 2 miles in this morning. Thought it'd be a good time to talk about waterproofing since I'm tracking some storms to my southwest, but I'm in full waterproof mode right now. If you take a look, the electronics, the head unit, the headlight, and back to the tail light, they are all waterproof. The top tube bag is supposedly waterproof, but it has a zipper, and I never trust zippers, so that has my phone and my wallet in a plastic bag inside. And then the bags themselves, the Arkel, they are waterproof. So I have squirted them with a hose before, been in a gentle rain, and they are solid dry. Other than I do have my iPad inside, so I have that in a plastic bag just in case. And then as far as me, I'll get wet, but clothes dry out fast. About 5.5 miles in this morning, we're way high up on the ridge. That's the top of it right there, as we make our way to the Continental Divide, the Big Savage Tunnel, and Cumberland, Maryland. Shot of my bike computer, you can see the elevation plot. We continue to climb towards the Continental Divide. That's 1 or 2%, as was the last couple days. So already this morning, about 170 feet climb. Well, you can tell we're getting closer to the divide because we must be on top of the ridge. The first time in the last 3 days that I haven't seen mountains beside me. So 8 miles in, I made it. The Eastern Continental Divide. This is everything to the west of me from here. The water flows towards the Mississippi and the Gulf of Mexico. And everything to the east of me is called the Chesapeake Bay Watershed, and that flows to the Atlantic Ocean. So this is the Continental Divide, and really from here, it's the last of my big uphill. All from here, it's pretty much downhill to Washington, D.C. So here at the Continental Divide, they have an elevation map. I kind of show my trip a little bit. So you see leaving here in Pittsburgh, and then the gradual climb to where we are today. And of course, it's exaggerated, but that's today's ride is from there down to Cumberland, so should be a pretty nice downhill all the way there, all the way to Washington, D.C. and sea level. I'm coasting, finally. Here it is. This is the Big Savage Tunnel. We're about 9.5 miles in this morning. 3,200 feet long, so almost 3/4 of a mile. It is lit, but I'll have my headlight on as well. Wow, does that look ominous? You take a look down there. I mean, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So this will be interesting. So here we go. So here we are in the Big Savage Tunnel. It's dry, a little bit freaky. I guess if I was a bear, this is where I would hang out on a hot, humid day. This was a railroad tunnel built in 1911, quite an engineering feat at the time. And the last train came through here in the mid-70s and then went into a complete state of disrepair. So it really was the last missing piece on the Great Allegheny Passage between Washington and Pittsburgh. And in the early 2000s, they renovated the tunnel. I think it was a $12 million project to get it to this point. It is really cool. And there's the exit to the tunnel up ahead. Right outside of the tunnel, there's a scenic overlook. It is spectacular. Even with the clouds in the sky, you can see the fog and the mist in the distant mountains. We're looking east, and really a bonus after all that climbing. 11.5 miles in this morning, and since I left the overlook, I have not pedaled. I'm just trying to see how long I can coast for. I've coasted for about a mile now. I found the Mason-Dixon line this morning, about 12 miles in. This is a little marker showing that. The Mason-Dixon line is the border between Pennsylvania, which is on your left there, and Maryland on your right. Also known as the border between the north and the south. So I'm walking down the Mason-Dixon line. Okay, I'm in a new state now. This is Maryland, and still coasting downhill towards Cumberland. Really nice. I mean, no pedaling, and 11, 12 miles an hour. So I'm just relaxing this morning and enjoying a nice little coast. So I'm tracking a pretty good line of storms that is heading to me from the west, and I'm still 14 miles from Cumberland, so I doubt if I'm going to make Cumberland. So I'll be looking for something, some sort of shelter along the way. So stopped at about 22 miles in at a nice little overlook, and we're looking over the village or city of Mount Savage, nestled in the hills down there. Up on the ridge you can see the windmills and also the clouds moving in. Starting to rain pretty good now. Getting under these trees to see if that helps any, but I think I'm gonna get wet. Downpour as I head into Brush Tunnel, also built in 1911. Looks like it's lit, so I'm just gonna get into here and go slow through to stay dry for a little bit. Looks like it's a single track for the bike, but the railroad is still next to us as well. It's kind of cool. So it doesn't look like it's going to quit raining for quite a bit, so I'm going to push on to my final destination. Just got about 6 miles to go. heading into Cumberland, and this is called the Narrows. Basically a gap between two mountains, and leading us right into Cumberland. And I have arrived in Cumberland, Maryland. Well, I've arrived at the official end of the Great Allegheny Passage and the beginning of the C&O Trail. And up ahead is the Fairfield Inn and Suites, which will be my stop for the evening. Really can't get much more convenient than that. The Fairfield is literally on the path, so no riding to get to it. So here at the Fairfield Inn and Suites, there's the bike after a few hours in the rain. Doesn't look any worse for wear, so we'll get the bags off later and we'll see if everything's dry inside.